Happy Monday morning, everyone. It's psychic medium Josh Simons coming to everyone who's watching this with one of my Monday messages. I do this every Monday to bring forth whatever clarity that I can from the experiences that I have. Today's bit of advice is me going against my better judgment. And what I mean by that, when I say that, is you know how it's said that when you're in polite company, you don't discuss religion, you don't discuss politics, right? It's not a very good idea to do those sorts of things. Well, today we're going to discuss both. So please bear with me when I do this. This is something that's very important to me, very dear to me, and I speak from the heart. And I hope that these words help or perhaps enlighten or broaden some perspectives. So first, the religious part of it, and then we'll get into the politics, which is not really politics like we are really understanding it. I want to talk about religion today. I want to talk about specifically Christianity. Now, for many folks who aren't familiar with me or my story or anything that I've gone through, I grew up in a very secular household. Secular means non-religious. My parents didn't have religion. Right, I can remember my dad talking about his family being kind of like Methodist, but I get the impression that they were just doing that because it was the thing to do in their society or their town at the time, their culture. I was very specifically not raised with religion, and my mom tried, right? And she thought, well, I'm a parent, this is what we do. We do the thing that we're supposed to do. And my mom went through a process of interviewing different churches and seeing which one that she should bring her kids to. And what she found is that none of the churches talked about what they could do for her kids or her family or her life. Basically, all the churches talked about why all the other churches were wrong, right? You got to come see us because the Catholics feel this way. You got to come see us because the Protestants feel this way or the Baptists feel this way. We're the right ones because they're wrong, right? If you genuinely believe that you're right about anything, politics, religion, anything, principles, philosophy, you should be able to defend that position without saying, well, I'm right because they're wrong. I can't tell you why I'm right. I can't tell you what I'm going to do for you, but I can tell you what they're not going to do for you and how they're going to hurt you. Whew. As a gay man, I grew up in the culture telling me that I was wrong, I was an abomination. And a lot of that does come from the religion of our culture. The major religion of our culture is Christianity. Whether you were raised in it or not, you are exposed to it. You are exposed to the influences of it, right? We've all heard what heaven is. We've all heard of Jesus. We've all heard of Mary. We've all heard of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You can't escape it. It is ingrained into us. It's ingrained into our society, whether we participate in it or not. I remember being about 12 and I was like lying on a couch looking out a window and it dawned on me at like 12 years old, what if heaven doesn't exist? Whoa, what if heaven, wait, that's what is supposed to happen. We're supposed to die and we're supposed to go there, right? My mind during the age of reason, right, 12, 13 years old, started to put things together and go, something's not adding up, right? Something's a little off. Now, what I'm about to share with everybody, if you are a practicing Christian, if you have Christianity in your life, absolutely keep rocking it, right? Because I'm a firm believer. You can believe whatever you want as long as that belief system, as long as your beliefs don't hurt people. If your beliefs and what you are believing in have a direct effect on the health and well-being of people, animals, the earth, I then will say something, right? I wasn't always like that. For a very long time, probably up until the past couple of years, I disliked all Christians. And it wasn't that I disliked them, it was more that I was afraid of them. I still have people who are religious in my life, and they still tell me that they pray for my soul and my husband's soul, right? That the God that they believe in, the God that created us, is also going to punish us because of how he created us. It's just, there's just some logical stuff here that's not too hard to peel back and get around. I used to dislike Christians because I was afraid of them. And now, what I have come to find, and this is kind of the point of the whole thing, and this is a big realization and shift for me, is that religion, whether it's Christianity or not, religion is a tool. A tool to bring people together, build community, help people connect to the divine and the spiritual. Sure, a tool, right? But in the hands of some people, that tool becomes a weapon. I can think of the Westminster Baptist Church, I think. God hates fags, all that stuff, right? All the stuff that people cherry pick, right? They're cherry picking little bits of literalism out of the Bible to promote their own prejudices, their biases, and their beliefs. Those people have taken religion and turned it into a weapon. Okay. Now, onto the politics side of things. Religion is very much like firearms. And firearms, in America, hot topic, right? And we go through cycles of disasters and lots of talk about firearm control and regulation and that, and then it falls off because of disasters. We're very desensitized to those sorts of disasters in the United States. Firearms, because I'm born and raised in northern New Hampshire and Vermont, firearms are an integral part of our culture. I'm probably more familiar with firearms than I am with religion, because my father hunted, my son hunts, my family, hunting was such a big thing, right? And it's still a big thing around here. Firearms, to me, to my opinion, firearms are a tool. And it's a tool that we can defend ourselves with, or we can harvest wildlife, right? Or we can turn it into a weapon, right? I do not believe firearms by themselves are a weapon. I believe that people take them and turn them into weapons. I understand that I am very potentially opening up a big can of worms with a lot of people by coming out and saying this. I'm not talking about regulation. I'm not talking about any of that, right? That's not what I'm here about today. I'm here about the idea that people can take objects, tools, systems, turn them into weapons. So me, right, if somebody tells me that they're a Christian, I no longer have this knee-jerk reaction of, oh my gosh, you're a bad person. Oh my gosh, you hate me. Oh my gosh, you think you're going to hell. Because I have met plenty of wonderful Christian people, right? And those wonderful Christian people that have come across my path have helped me to realize that what they're holding is a tool that has been weaponized by other people, and that weapon has been pointed at me. And I still have a little bit of what one may consider PTSD or trauma-related reactions around religion and spirituality, right? I still do. It's once you're afraid of something, it's hard to not be afraid of it, right? But I try to remind myself that my reaction is towards the time when that tool was weaponized against me. So here's a really good example. Imagine somebody who suffered from like Sandy Hook or Columbine, right? Somebody who was in that scenario. They didn't pass away, but perhaps their friends or their loved ones passed away. That is absolutely a traumatic experience. Yes. In that instance, that person was a victim of somebody taking a tool and turning it into a weapon. That person who was in that crisis or that trauma, now they go off into the world, right? Now that person's going to see every firearm, every tool as a weapon. Doesn't matter how it's being used, right? Imagine if this person imagine the person that would have suffered at any of these awful tragedies and to have lived, right? And they have this trauma, this pain that they're living with, and then they go into a house, right? And the house is in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, real rural, right? Like we are here. And somebody walks out and they're about to go hunting, right? They're carrying a gun. Now, the way they're holding it is not meant to inflict pain or harm, right? On that person. And yet that person's reaction is going to be very similar to like, oh my gosh, I don't care why you're holding it. It hurt me. I'm frightened of it. This is why I oftentimes, when people are very Christian, very Catholic, very, very, very ingrained into those systems, and even though that their heart is very much all about what Jesus would have believed, right? Don't judge anybody, love, help, service, all of that. Even though they're the most wonderful people, to me, they're still carrying a weapon that has hurt me. I hope this makes sense because this has sat with me for a really long time. The idea that religion is not by itself a weapon, but it is a tool that some people have turned into a weapon. Firearms, whether they were created to be weapons or not, they are absolutely a tool, right? I have a house full of firearms. Everybody in my house is trained and knows how to use them. These are tools that we are not going to take and turn into weapons. Yet, there are some people that will take them and turn them into weapons. So I hope this analogy, right, tracks for you. I hope it makes sense for you. And the reason that I bring this to everybody is that when you hold on to something like a religion or a spirituality, and even if you're not using it as a weapon, but you know of other people who have, it is absolutely your responsibility to speak from a place, to acknowledge that, yeah, people have turned this thing into weapons, right? To honor and acknowledge that people have been traumatized by them, and then to speak from a place of that, acknowledging that. And if that tool is that important to you in your life, you then become a person that's responsible for sharing that wisdom with people, right? So if you are a Christian, if you are a Catholic, or if you've participated in any major world religion or spirituality that has hurt other people, you have to understand that you're wielding a tool, even though you may be using it selflessly and without intention to cause harm, that tool can trigger, I even hate to use that word, right? Can trigger somebody's response, that it was a traumatic response. I have very good friends that are Catholics, Christians, right? We don't talk about this stuff because I've made my feelings pretty well known about it. And yet I do my best to remember that they're not carrying a weapon, they're carrying a tool. If you are carrying a tool, if you're a firearm user, right, and you use it as a tool but not a weapon, it's also your responsibility to acknowledge that other people are out there using them as weapons and to do your best to speak as much as appropriate to the fact that, listen, I've got it. It's important to me, right? It's my right to carry this spirituality, weapon, firearm, whatever, right? But I'm not going to use it like other people have used it, right? And I know that this is hard to explain, but there's a reason why I have to share this. And what I do is I think about these messages and I go, okay, what can I talk about this week? Spirits, tell me, what can I talk about this week? And this is the thing that I'm supposed to talk about, so I'm just doing what I'm told. Religion by itself, for all of its complicated history, all of it, it is not a weapon, but it has been used by one. Firearms, not weapons, but they've been used by them, right? So again, be mindful. Even if it isn't spirituality or firearms, perhaps it's something else, right? Perhaps it's a belief system or something, cars. A person that's been in a car accident, perhaps they go around cars and they'd be very tense, right? That's because they've experienced something that was meant as a tool that was turned into a weapon, inadvertently or not, right? Is that example can go on and on and on for all the things that we have in our life. Please be aware that if you are part of something that has traumatized and hurt great numbers of people, that you are kind of responsible for that. And I'm really frustrated with the religion piece of it too, right? Because we take the Bible, right, for all of it, for the Old Testament, the New Testament, lots of history, lots of stuff in the Bible that can be weaponized, right? Not just for gay people, but for women and minorities and all sorts of awful things in the Bible can be weaponized. And I've had discussions with people. I'm like, okay, so it's a historical document that people are taking literally, right? It's a mythological, spiritual, historical document that some people are taking literally, turning it into weapons. Why aren't we having more conversations about this, right? Why does that book have to exist as it does without any conversation about, well, maybe they're not talking about stoning people, what have you? It really frustrates me, and there's probably not an easy answer to this. But I look at the Bible and I'm like, all right, so all the damage caused by this thing, right? Why don't they regulate it? Why don't they take the pieces out that have been weaponized and do something with it, right? If the idea of the Bible is Jesus' story and Jesus' gospel and all of the philosophies and wisdoms that Jesus was sharing, why do I need to know anything about Leviticus? Probably for historical context, sure. But there's something about it. Ideally, I think there should be a new Bible, right? Why do we have to hold on to the pieces that were weapons? Those pieces are taken literally and hurting people. So as I'm talking about regulating the Bible, you could probably have the same conversation about regulating firearms, right? That's a big conversation, right? Just be mindful of the tools that you carry that have been used by weapons, is used as weapons by other people, and what that use as a weapon has done to other people, right? Just be mindful of it, because when you hold that tool, you carry that tool's legacy as a weapon. And there could be people that are really upset by the fact that you're carrying that. So please just take that. I know that whoever's supposed to hear this is going to hear it. And I'd love people's insight about this. I love what people have to think. Now, what I'm going to do is, now I've talked about politics and religion, right? I'm going to pull a tarot card. And the tarot card's just a little bit of wisdom. And I will shuffle 3 times and cut the deck. But I am bringing wisdom of tarot to bear for folks who might be listening this far, as well as the wisdom that they can get from this symbol. Okay. So the card that I have is the 3 of Pentacles. The 3 of Pentacles, Pentacles are the earth elements, so we're talking money, resources, comfort, all the earthy stuff, right? Coins, Pentacles are also known as coins. And what we see in the 3 here is these folks are building a church. Now, isn't this funny? There's a lot of, in the classic Rider-Waite deck, there's a lot of Christian religious symbolism, right? And not in every card, but in a lot of the cards there are. There's a few angels in here, and now what we see is a church, and this is stained glass that hasn't been filled in, and we can see here that there's a man with some plans, and they're talking, there's craftsmanship and planning for the future, right? What are they creating? So there's this sense that we've built something, right? But we're also planning for the future. We're also talking about the colors of stained glass that are going in here, right? So there's a sense of, wholesomeness. Things are good. We've got a solid foundation, but let's plan for the future. That's what this card is. I don't know how much we actually plan for the future. I think that we do conceptually plan for the future. And we talk about like climate change and disaster planning and all of that. But is anybody, and I'm not in the circles, has anybody talked about like what the future of religion looks like in this world? What the future of spirituality looks like in this world? Can we maybe take some of that spirituality and de-weaponize it, right? This is very much, again, and this is a theme that seems to come up in these tiny, tiny little messages that I do. What kind of world do you want to build? What kind of future do you want to build? What are you planning for, right? What are you planning for? Also, we see craftsmen, right? Craftsmen's here. There's a sense of tools, right? We were just talking about tools. So they're building with tools. This church that they're building, this cathedral that they're building, to the people that are building it, hopefully they feel like it is a tool to bring people together, connect them to the spiritual and the divine. And yet there are other people in the background of this scenario looking to use this as a control mechanism, looking to use this to hurt people. So this just reinforces the message that I brought this week. Think about the tools you carry. Think about what those tools are doing to build a stable, healthy future for everyone. Think about the tools that you carry that have been weaponized and what kind of legacy you carry with them. Because you do. You do. If you are part of a political party, and I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, a whole other conversation, right? But if you are part of one of those and you wear that label and that party is a tool, means to an end, if you will, you also have the legacy of that party and however it was weaponized. Because people have taken political parties, both of them, all of them, and weaponized them. And some people have taken them and used them as tools. So, what are the tools that you have? How can you make them useful in your world, better the world that you're in? Then how can you be aware of how they've been used as a weapon? Because that part, the weaponized part, that's where we all suffer. That's where we have trauma. So please be mindful of that. If you've stayed with me this long, I'm going to do a little plug for this upcoming course that we're doing. May 1st, we are starting, Isaac, myself, and a whole bunch of guest instructors are teaching a course on how to come into relation with the spirit of the land. My church is right outside, right? That if I need to connect to the divine, I am going to take a walk in the woods, take a walk by a lake, right? And I will do things to express that spirituality, and I will do things to further peel back those layers so I can get to know that natural area better. If you're interested in that, starts up on May 1st. You got to be signed up by April 23rd. Everybody gets a box of goodies sent to them so they can do the practices and the exercises that are with each week. It's going from May 1st to August 1st. It's 3 whole months of a class. It's going to be amazing, significant, powerful for everybody who takes it. deepeartharts.com/rooted. If you have any questions about anything that I've shared here today or the class, please share them. I'm happy to talk, happy to answer. So thank you for listening. And if there's anybody in your life that you feel could benefit from this message, some religious folks in your life or people that use firearms, send it to them. Send it to them. Hope that it helps. So be well, everybody. Take care of yourself. Keep your chin up. I'll see you next week.